My family believed my sister's lie, disowned me, and let me rot. Now they want me to save them from homelessness, so I let them lose everything. It started when I was 22, fresh out of college with a computer science degree and my first real job offer. Dad's company was struggling, hemorrhaging money from bad investments. That's when Rochelle made her move. She told them I'd stolen $50,000 from Dad's business account to fund my graduation trip. The truth? I'd never touched his accounts. Never even had access. But Rochelle had both motive and opportunity. She'd been embezzling for months to cover her gambling debts. The evidence she manufactured was flawless. Forged bank statements with my signature, fake emails from my account. She'd been planning this for weeks, knowing she'd get caught eventually. Better to frame me than face consequences herself. Dad didn't even ask for my side of the story. He just stared at the papers Rochelle laid out, his face hardening with each page. Mom cried. My brother Theo stood there silent, watching me like I was a stranger. Get out, Dad said. You're not my daughter anymore. I tried to explain, begged them to check with the bank, verify the signatures, anything. Rochelle stood behind them, tears streaming down her face, playing the devastated sister perfectly. They changed the locks that night, blocked my number, told everyone in our community I was a thief. My job offer was rescinded after Dad called them personally. Friends stopped answering my calls. Even my childhood best friend crossed the street when she saw me coming. For 3 years, I lived in a studio apartment the size of a closet. I worked retail, then customer service, slowly rebuilding from nothing. No references, no family support. Just me and the burning knowledge that I was innocent. I taught myself advanced coding at night, applied to remote positions under a different name, eventually landed at a tech startup that only cared about what I could do, not who I knew. The company took off. Within 2 years, I was lead developer. Within 4, I had equity worth 7 figures. Last month, Dad called from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. Your sister's been arrested, he said without greeting. Embezzlement. Multiple counts. Turns out Rochelle had been running the same scam at 3 different companies. The FBI had evidence going back 8 years, including the forged documents she'd used to frame me. We made a mistake, Mom said when she got on the line. We should have believed you. They'd spent everything defending Rochelle. Legal fees drained their savings. Dad's business folded. They'd mortgaged the house twice and were 3 months from foreclosure. We need your help, Dad said. His voice cracked. Please. I met them at a diner the next day. They looked decades older. Mom's hand shook as she stirred her coffee. Theo couldn't meet my eyes. They laid it all out. The debt, the foreclosure notice, how Rochelle had manipulated them for years while I'd been exiled. They'd lost everything believing her lies. We're your family, Mom whispered. Blood is supposed to mean something. I thought about the nights I'd gone hungry, the time I had pneumonia but couldn't afford the doctor, how I'd spent 3 Christmases alone in that shoebox apartment while they'd been posting family photos without me. You're right, I said calmly. Family should mean something. I pulled out the foreclosure notice they'd slid across the table. I could have paid it off with one transfer, could have saved the house, cleared the debt, given them a fresh start. Instead, I folded it neatly and pushed it back. But you stopped being my family the day you chose to believe a lie over your own daughter. The color drained from Dad's face. Wait, Theo started, but I was already standing, already walking toward the door. Behind me, Mom started crying. Not the quiet tears from before, the kind that come from finally understanding what you've lost. I didn't look back. 2 weeks later, I purchased their house at auction for considerably less than they owed. That's when Dad showed up at my office with something that made my blood run cold. He didn't call ahead, didn't ask my assistant for an appointment, just walked past security with the kind of entitlement that comes from never being told no. I was in a meeting when he barged in. My team went silent as this disheveled man in an ill-fitting suit stood in the doorway, clutching a manila envelope like it contained nuclear codes. We need to talk, he said. Now. I should have had security remove him, should have maintained the boundary I'd worked so hard to build. But something in his eyes stopped me. Not desperation, fear. Give us the room, I told my team. They filed out, shooting concerned glances over their shoulders. My assistant lingered at the door. It's fine, I said. Close the door behind you. Dad waited until we were alone. Then he threw the envelope on the conference table. Open it. Inside were photocopies of medical records, bills from a hospital in Nevada, and a death certificate dated 3 months ago. The name on it was mine. What is this? My voice came out steadier than I felt. Rochelle had a daughter, Dad said. Nobody knew. She kept her hidden, used a fake name, different social security number. The girl was born the same year as you. I stared at the documents. Birth certificate for someone named Alexis Chen. Mother listed as Rachel Chen, but the birth date was exactly 2 weeks before mine. She named her first kid after you, Dad continued. Used your identity for everything. Social security, credit cards, bank accounts. She's been doing it since the girl was born. The room tilted. The embezzlement wasn't the first crime, he said. The FBI found 17 different identities Rochelle created over the years. Yours was the oldest, the most established. I flipped through the pages. Hospital stays, credit applications, a marriage license, all using my name and social security number, but different addresses across 3 states. This girl, I said slowly. Where is she now? Dad's face crumbled. That's why I'm here. Alexis died of an overdose 3 months ago. The debts she racked up using your identity? They're coming due. Collection agencies, hospital bills, criminal charges from passing bad checks. He pulled out another stack of papers. Warrants, summons, legal notices addressed to me at addresses I'd never lived at. You're wanted in Nevada for fraud, California for identity theft, Oregon for writing bad checks totaling $40,000. My hands were shaking now. This can't be happening. The FBI knows it wasn't you, Dad said quickly. But cleaning it up? That takes lawyers, time, money. Rochelle destroyed everything she touched, including your life twice over. I looked at him standing there, pathetic and broken, and felt nothing but rage. Why are you telling me this? Because I need you to understand, he said. When we kicked you out, we didn't just believe Rochelle's lie. She'd been setting you up for years. She had backup stories, fake evidence, contingency plans. She knew exactly which buttons to push with your mother and me. So you're saying you had no choice? My voice cut through the air. You were manipulated, so that makes it okay? No, he sank into a chair. I'm saying I was weak, stupid, and now you're dealing with consequences I should have prevented. I gathered the documents. My entire identity had been weaponized by my own sister. Used to create a ghost that racked up debts and criminal charges while I was building a real life from nothing. Get out of my office. I can help, Dad insisted. I'll testify, provide character witnesses, whatever you need. I'm still your father. You stopped being my father the second you chose her over me. Please. I said get out. He left the envelope, left everything that proved my sister had been destroying my life since the day I was born. That night, I hired the best criminal defense attorney in 3 states. Cost me $50,000 just for the retainer. The investigation took 4 months. Every charge had to be contested individually. Every warrant required a court appearance. The FBI helped, but bureaucracy moves slow even with federal assistance. I had to fly to Nevada twice, to California once. Each time, walking into courtrooms where I was technically a wanted fugitive, explaining to skeptical judges that I'd never been to these cities, never opened these accounts, never written these checks. The worst part wasn't the legal battles. It was seeing the life Rochelle had created in my name. Alexis Chen had been a struggling addict. The medical records showed multiple overdoses, stints in rehab, arrests for possession. She'd lived in motels and shelters, pawned anything she could steal, and left a trail of destruction wherever she went. And she'd done it all as me. The prosecutors in Nevada showed me surveillance footage from a pawn shop. A young woman, thin and jittery, selling a laptop she'd shoplifted from Best Buy. She had my eyes, my hair color, could have been my twin if I'd lived a different life. Your sister chose her because of the resemblance, the prosecutor explained. Made it easier to establish the identity, harder to disprove. I watched the footage on repeat that night. This girl who never had a chance, who'd been born into a lie and died alone in a Nevada motel room with a needle in her arm. Rochelle had given her my name but none of the privileges, had used her as a tool to destroy me while letting her daughter spiral into addiction and death. When the charges were finally cleared, I was 28 years old and felt ancient. My attorney called with the news. All warrants have been withdrawn. Your record is clean. We're filing civil suits against Rochelle's estate for damages. Her estate? She had assets hidden under different names. The FBI seized them. You're entitled to compensation for the identity theft. I hung up and sat in my empty apartment. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Theo. Dad told me what Rochelle did. I'm sorry isn't enough, but I'm sorry anyway. I deleted it without responding. 2 days later, Mom called from a different unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Baby girl? Her voice cracked. I know you don't want to hear from us, but your father's in the hospital. Heart attack. They don't know if he'll make it. I listened to the message 3 times before I deleted that too. The civil suit took another year. Rochelle's hidden assets totaled $230,000. Money she'd stolen from various employers, stashed in offshore accounts, and hidden under fake names. The judge awarded me $180,000 in damages. The rest went to legal fees and other victims. I donated every cent to addiction recovery programs in Nevada, in memory of Alexis Chen, who'd never asked to be my ghost. That's when Theo showed up at my office. 8 months after Dad's message. 6 months after whatever happened at the hospital. This time, I let security know to send him up. He looked terrible, thinner, gray streaks in his hair that hadn't been there before. Dad died, he said before he even sat down. 2 weeks ago. Mom wanted me to tell you. I nodded, felt nothing. The funeral's on Saturday. I won't be there. Theo flinched like I'd hit him. I know I don't have the right to ask, but Mom's falling apart. She keeps asking for you. She had years to ask for me, when it mattered. I know. He rubbed his face. I know what we did. There's no excuse. But she's your mother. Was my mother, I corrected. Right up until she chose Rochelle's lies over the daughter who needed her. We were wrong. His voice broke. I was wrong. I should have defended you, should have asked questions. But I was scared and stupid and I took the easy path. The easy path was throwing me away. Yes. He met my eyes for the first time, and I've had to live with that every day since. I leaned back in my chair, studied the brother I'd once shared everything with. We'd been close once. He'd taught me to ride a bike. I'd helped him pass algebra. We'd had our own language, our own jokes. What do you want, Theo? I want to explain, he said, about what happened that day. About why I stayed silent. I shouldn't have let him, should have sent him away like I'd sent Dad away. But something in his defeated posture made me gesture to the chair. He sat. Rochelle came to me first, he started. Before she went to Mom and Dad, she showed me the documents, said you'd been stealing for months, that you'd gotten in over your head with credit cards and were planning to run. And you believed her. I didn't want to, but she had your signature on everything, your email address. She even had text messages she claimed were from you, asking her to cover for you. He pulled out his phone, scrolled back through years of messages, showed me conversations I'd never had. I thought I was protecting you by not confronting you directly. Thought if I stayed neutral, I could help mediate once things calmed down. You stayed silent while they destroyed my life. I know. He put the phone away. By the time I realized Rochelle was lying, it was too late. You were gone, and I was too much of a coward to admit I'd been played. You could have found me, could have apologized. Would you have listened? Fair point. Rochelle used to brag about it, Theo continued. After you left, she'd get drunk at family dinners and make little comments about how easy it was to fool everyone, how you'd always been her father's favorite and she'd finally evened the score. And you never thought to tell Mom and Dad? I did. They didn't want to hear it. Dad's business was failing. Mom was barely holding it together. They needed someone to blame and you were gone. Rochelle was there. He looked at his hands. I wanted to tell you something else. About the house. What about it? Mom didn't want to sell. After the foreclosure notice came, she locked herself in your old bedroom for 3 days. Dad found her sleeping in your bed, holding your baby blanket. I felt something crack in my chest. Pushed it down. She burned all the photos of Rochelle. Every single one. Then she went through the house and removed anything that proved Rochelle ever existed. Little late for that. I know. But when you bought the house at auction, when Mom found out it was you who owned it now, Theo's voice dropped. She said it was right. Said the house should have always been yours. Touching. She's living with me now, in my spare bedroom, the one that's barely bigger than a closet. She spends most days staring out the window. Theo, why are you telling me this? Because I need you to know that losing you destroyed her. Destroyed all of us. And we deserved every second of that destruction. He stood to leave, then paused at the door. There's one more thing. The house. What are you going to do with it? I haven't decided. Well, whenever you do decide, I hope you know that place stopped being a home the day we kicked you out. You don't owe it anything. Not memories, not sentiment, nothing. After he left, I sat alone in my office until the cleaning crew arrived. I drove to the house that night. First time I'd seen it since the auction. The locks had been changed, but I had the keys now. Everything inside was mine. The furniture was still there. Everything frozen in time like a museum exhibit of a broken family. I walked through rooms that used to feel safe, touching walls that had once witnessed laughter. In my old bedroom, I found what Theo had described. Mom had been living there. Her clothes in my closet, her pills on my nightstand, my baby blanket folded carefully on the bed. On my old desk, she'd left a letter. I didn't want to read it. Didn't owe her the grace of my attention, but I opened it anyway. The handwriting was shaky, barely legible. My darling girl, I don't expect forgiveness. Don't even ask for it. But I need you to know that not a single day has passed where I haven't thought about what we did to you. I see your face in my dreams, hear your voice begging us to believe you, and I wake up knowing I failed the one test that mattered. A mother is supposed to protect her child, to know them better than anyone else in the world. I knew you, knew your heart, your character, your truth, and I still chose doubt over faith. Rochelle wasn't the one who destroyed our family. I was. The moment I let silence mean agreement. The moment I stood by while your father threw you out. The moment I didn't chase after you and beg you to stay. This house is full of ghosts now. Not the kind that haunt. The kind that remind. Every room holds a memory of you that I can never get back. Your laugh in the kitchen. Your music playing too loud upstairs. The way you'd curl up on the couch with a book. I don't live here anymore, but I couldn't bear to see strangers walk these halls. Couldn't stand the thought of another family making memories in spaces that belonged to you. When I heard you'd bought it, I cried for the first time since you left. Not from sadness. From relief. The house found its way back to its real owner. Do whatever you want with it. Burn it down if it helps. Sell it tomorrow. Or keep it as a reminder of everything that should have been different. Just know that somewhere in this broken life, your mother still loves you. Still wakes up thinking about the daughter she lost. Still hopes, against all reason, that maybe someday you'll find a way to forgive her. Not for my sake. For yours. So you can be free of this burden we placed on you. I love you. I always have. And I'm sorrier than words can express. Mom, I read it twice. Then I folded it carefully and put it in my pocket. I didn't cry. Didn't feel the catharsis the letter probably hoped for. Just a heavy emptiness where anger used to be. I locked up the house and drove home. The next day, I called Theo. The funeral, I said when he answered. What time? Saturday arrived cold and gray. Perfect funeral weather. I stood at the back of the church while they eulogized a man I'd once called Dad. They talked about his integrity, his loyalty, his family values. Nobody mentioned the daughter he'd thrown away. Mom sat in the front row, barely visible between the mourners. She didn't look back. Didn't know I was there. After the service, people filtered out to the cemetery. I stayed behind, sitting in the last pew while the church emptied. Footsteps echoed on the tile. Mom appeared at the end of my row, looking like she'd aged 20 years in 3. You came, she whispered. I did. She sat down, leaving 2 feet of space between us. Respectful distance. Thank you. I didn't come for you. I came because I needed to see it end. She nodded, tears sliding down her face. I understand. We sat in silence. The kind that holds more truth than words. The letter, I finally said. In the house. You read it? I did. And? I turned to look at her. Really look at her. This woman who'd given birth to me, raised me, then cast me aside at the first test of faith. You were right about one thing, I said. The burden wasn't mine to carry. It was yours. And you chose to place it on me anyway. I know. You chose wrong. And that choice cost you everything. I know, she repeated. But you were also right that I should be free of it. Her eyes met mine. Hopeful. Desperate. So I'm going to tell you what I need you to understand. I'm not here to forgive you. I'm not here to rebuild. I'm here to tell you goodbye. Please. You don't get to ask for please. You don't get to ask for anything. You used up that right 3 years ago. I stood up. She grabbed my hand and I let her. I loved you, I said. I loved all of you. And you broke that love so completely that there's nothing left to rebuild from. That's not on me. That's on you. I pulled my hand away gently. Final. The house is being demolished next month. I'm building a women's shelter on the property. For daughters who've been thrown away by their families. They'll have what I never did. A place to belong. Mom made a sound like something dying. It's called second chances, because everyone deserves one, even the ones whose families decided they didn't. I walked down the aisle toward the door, toward the light, toward the life I'd built from ashes. Wait, Mom called out behind me. What about Theo? I paused at the threshold. Theo made his choice too, but at least he owned it. That counts for something. Does that mean? It means maybe, someday, if he earns it. I left her there in the empty church, holding the pieces of a family that would never be whole again. Outside, Theo stood by the cemetery gates. He'd watched me arrive, stayed close in case I needed support. You came, he said, echoing Mom's words. I did. What happens now? I looked back at the church where our family had finally broken completely. Then at my brother, who'd been the only one brave enough to admit his mistakes. Now I go build something better than what we had. Can I help? The old me would have said no, would have cut ties completely. But standing there in funeral black, I realized something important. Forgiveness wasn't about them. It was about me choosing what kind of person I wanted to be. Someone who let anger consume her, or someone who built new things from old ruins? The shelter, I said. I need someone to manage operations. Someone who understands what it means to fail people and wants to do better. Theo's face transformed. Are you serious? Dead serious. But hear me clearly. This isn't absolution. This is an opportunity to prove you've changed, to show up for people the way you didn't show up for me. I'll do it, whatever it takes. The pay is terrible. The hours are worse, and you'll be face to face with stories that will remind you every day of what you did to me. Good, he said. I deserve that reminder. I handed him a business card with the shelter's information. First day is in 6 weeks. Don't be late. He clutched the card like a lifeline. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just show up. I walked to my car, leaving my brother standing in the cemetery parking lot with his second chance. The demolition happened on a Tuesday. I stood across the street and watched as the wrecking ball smashed into walls that had held so many lies. Each impact felt like liberation. Theo worked beside me, watching the house of our childhood crumble into dust. You feel anything? He asked. Relief. The foundation took 3 days to clear. The construction took 6 months. And when Second Chances opened its doors, we had space for 30 women and their children. The first resident was a 23-year-old named Jordan, who'd been kicked out for refusing an arranged marriage. Her parents had chosen religion over their daughter. I showed her to her room. Clean sheets, private bathroom, a lock on the door that only she controlled. How long can I stay? She asked, voice small. As long as you need to get back on your feet. Could be months, could be years. This is your home now. She cried. Then she smiled. Then she started unpacking the single bag that held her entire life. Over the next year, we filled every bed. Women escaping abuse, daughters disowned for being gay, teenagers thrown out for getting pregnant, each one carrying the weight of family betrayal. Theo ran the operations with a dedication that bordered on obsession. He'd arrive before sunrise and leave after midnight. He knew every resident by name, remembered their stories, and fought for resources like a man possessed. Why do you work so hard? One of the residents asked him once. Because I have a debt I can never repay, he said, so I'll spend my life trying anyway. Mom never contacted me again. I heard through relatives she'd moved to Arizona to live with her sister, that she'd stopped talking about her daughters, both of them, that she existed in quiet exile, punishing herself in ways I never could. Part of me felt satisfaction. A larger part felt nothing at all. Rochelle got 15 years in federal prison. She'd write me sometimes, letters full of excuses and justifications. I never opened them, just marked them, returned to sender, and moved on with my life. On the shelter's first anniversary, we held a celebration, 30 women and their children, success stories and new beginnings. Theo gave a speech about second chances and earning redemption. When it was my turn to speak, I looked at the faces in the crowd. Women who'd been discarded and had chosen to rebuild. Women who'd taken their pain and transformed it into strength. This place exists because families fail, I said. Because people we trust choose wrong. Because sometimes love isn't enough to overcome fear and weakness. Jordan, who'd become a resident advisor, sat in the front row with her daughter. The baby she'd had 6 months after arriving. The grandchild her parents would never meet. But this place also exists because we are stronger than their failures. Because we can build new families from the wreckage of old ones. Because second chances aren't just about forgiving others. They're about believing in ourselves enough to start over. I looked at Theo, who had tears running down his face. Some people earn their way back, some don't. That's not for us to decide for anyone else. We only get to decide what we do with the chances we're given. The applause was thunderous. Small hands clapping alongside larger ones. New life celebrating survival. After the speeches, after the cake, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat alone in my office. The deed to the property hung on the wall. Not in my name, in the name of the Second Chances Foundation. The house was gone. The family was gone. Even the anger had finally burned itself out. What remained was something I'd built from nothing. Something that would outlast all of us. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Mom. I heard about the anniversary. I'm proud of you. That's all. You don't have to respond. I just needed you to know. I stared at the message for a long time. 3 years ago, those words would have meant everything. Now they were just pixels on a screen. I didn't respond. Didn't block the number either. Just let it exist in the space between everything that was and everything that could never be. Theo knocked on my office door. Jordan wants to name her daughter after you. What? She said you gave her a chance when her family gave up. Said she wants her daughter to have a name that means second chances. I followed him to Jordan's room. She sat in the rocking chair holding her sleeping baby. "I hope you don't mind," she said softly, "but I want to name her after someone who showed me that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when it matters." I looked at this tiny person, born into a life her biological grandparents would never acknowledge, born into a world where her mother had to start from zero, born into a chance at something better. "I'd be honored," I said. Jordan smiled through tears. "Then meet Second Chance Jordan. We'll call her Chance for short." I held that baby while her mother slept. This tiny person who would grow up knowing her name carried meaning, that she represented possibility, that her existence proved families could be chosen, built, and sustained through intention rather than obligation. Somewhere in Arizona, my mother existed in her self-imposed exile. Somewhere in federal prison, Rochelle paid for her crimes. Somewhere in the ground, my father's body rotted with secrets he'd never addressed. And here, in this building built on the ruins of my childhood home, 30 women slept safe for the first time in years. The family I'd lost could never be repaired. That chapter ended the day they chose Rochelle's lies over their daughter's truth. But these women, this work, this was the family I'd chosen, the one I'd built from the ashes of betrayal, the one that would outlast every person who'd ever thrown me away. I handed Chance back to her sleeping mother, walked back to my office, opened my laptop and started processing applications for next month's openings. There were 47 women waiting for beds. 47 daughters, sisters, mothers who'd been cast aside by people who should have protected them. 47 more chances to prove that being thrown away wasn't the end of anyone's story. It was just the beginning of a better one. I approved 6 applications before my phone buzzed again. Theo. Emergency in room 7. Resident's family found her. They're outside threatening to take her daughter. I grabbed my phone and headed downstairs. This was the work. Not vengeance, not victory, just showing up when it mattered. The way no one had shown up for me.